Welcome back to the Horsemen Pro Football Talk. Today, we have a lot to get into. Today, we're going to talk about the Detroit Lions having the best day they've had in an entire year. Today, we're going to talk about old Uncle Rico, the king of Minshew Mania, soaring high at quarterback for the Philadelphia Eagles. Today, we're going to talk about Ben Roethlisberger's future in Pittsburgh. Adrian Peterson joins the top 10 in NFL's all-time touchdown list. The Dolphins are one of the hottest teams in the league. The Baltimore Ravens might just be in serious trouble. The Houston Texans officially become the first team eliminated from postseason contention. We're going to dive into the playoff picture, super tight race, especially in the AFC, and share our picks for this coming weekend. Stick around because this show starts right now. Welcome back to the Horsemen Pro Football Talk podcast. My name is Zach, and I am your host for the day. Along with me for the ride is our very own football guru, Hefe.
Hey, what's going on, everybody? How we doing today?
I hope they're doing all right. Probably not as good as what Brad's doing. He is out on vacation this week, which is why he is not with us. He's out there in beautiful, sunny Keys of Florida, so shout out to him. I hope he's enjoying his time out there.
Yes, sir. It must be nice. It's beautiful weather down here in Florida right now. It's December, and I'm sweating my ass off during the day.
Yeah, it must be nice. I'm up here on the East Coast in Virginia. Little chilly outside, but it's not too bad. It's definitely not the way it is down in Florida. I can tell you that.
A little bit of a change up from what you had last year.
Oh yeah, definitely. So all right. Shout out to all of our WUBI live radio listeners for tuning in as we're speaking right now. You're listening. Reminder, following the conclusion of this show, Hefe and I will be right back with you for week 14 of Fantasy Central. So be sure to stick around as we talk about the final week of the fantasy regular season and get you ready to go for your fantasy playoffs next week. If you're watching on YouTube, Facebook, or simply listening on your favorite podcast platform, we also appreciate you guys tuning in. Hit that like, share, subscribe button. Help us continue to grow. First things first, the Horsemen Pigskin Pick'em League. The results for Week 13 are in as of the time of this recording with only one game left to go. The Monday night matchup with the Patriots and the Bills, which has already happening by the time you're listening to this. We just don't know the results at this time. Shout out to our very own Hefe making moves and taking the Week 13 crown with 90 points. Congratulations, Hefe.
Finally did it. We're in what is this, Week 13, and I finally did the best. It's only by one so far, and I picked the Bills. So by the end of it, there could be like 5 of us with a 90 score this week. But hopefully the Bills can do it, and I can be the only person to hit 100 this week.
Yeah, I think I took the Patriots. I'm not sure what everybody else has because it's all locked, but there's a lot of people right on your heels with 80 points this week. So who knows? You might come out on top for once.
And I've been in 7th for so long, and I'm finally 6th. I don't know who Indy Shaman is, but I finally got you. You're not catching up.
On the whole, as we head towards the end of the regular season here, T. Haney 44 still leads the pack by 3 games with Trey and Willie on the west side right there on his heels, followed by Brad and I that are tied, but we're 9 games back. Hefe's making a resurgence in an attempt to beat us out. We'll see how that goes. And I do want to shout out to Indie Sports Shaman and B. Knowles, which round out our top 8 in the Pigskin Pick'em League. So good luck to everybody as we head down the back end of this regular season, and we'll see who comes out as an ultimate Pigskin Pick'em champion. So let's switch it up a bit, jump right into the current playoff picture, run down these teams top to bottom, really get in there on what's coming up for them as we close in on the playoffs in only, 5 more weeks?
I believe we have, 5 weeks, yep.
Damn, this season is flying by.
Yes.
Absolutely insane. It's absolutely insane. All right, so let's start with the AFC. A lot is happening here, and this may be subject to change based on how they did Monday night. But we're going to start right here at the number 1 seed in the AFC at the time of this recording. And that's the New England Patriots sitting at 8-4. Again, we do this recording on Monday. So by the time this comes out, we do not know the results, but by the time you're hearing it, you will know. If New England beats Buffalo on Monday Night Football, they're sitting at 9-4, still atop the AFC. But if Buffalo won, the Patriots fell to 8-5, tied with Buffalo in the AFC East, which the Bills would now hold the head-to-head tiebreaker. So the Patriots would be sitting at 5th heading into their bye week in week 14. What do you think about that, Hefe?
Well, if you listened to our show last week or watched our show on YouTube last week, then you know that I picked the Bills to win. By the time you're hearing this, the Bills should be number one in the entire AFC at this point, and the Patriots should be in a wild card spot. I wouldn't be surprised either way. I think the Patriots, they've been balling out. They don't turn the ball over. Their defense plays such good football, and they run the ball really well. And when you're talking about, especially Bill Belichick-led teams, even with Tom Brady as the quarterback, I mean, they've always done that. After Thanksgiving, they get everything right. They go on a run because they can run the ball really well and they can play really good defense. I don't see that changing week to week. I don't think either team wins out the rest of the way, but I think they're going to be fighting week after week for that number one spot.
Yeah, and to kind of put a little correction, if the Bills do beat New England on Monday night, the Bills would actually be second overall in the AFC because I do believe the Titans beat them earlier in the season. So the Titans would move up to number one, if I'm not mistaken there. But that's here nor there, not really a big deal. Looking ahead for the Patriots, after their bye week this coming week, the Patriots are at Indianapolis, and then they play Buffalo again and Jacksonville at home. And then they finish the season against the Miami Dolphins, who are currently on a 5-game win streak. If you had to put a percentage on the Pats being the number one overall AFC seed, what would you put it at with this schedule?
With the way they've played, with the schedule they have left, I'd say it's probably somewhere around 55-60% that they end up as the top seed in the AFC.
That's a little bit higher than I thought you were going to put them, to be honest with you.
Yeah, I mean, I don't like the Patriots. They can all go fuck themselves. But I mean, at the end of the day, we're trying to put out, unbiased opinions. And my unbiased opinion is that over the last 2 months, they've been the only AFC team that has not been schizophrenic. They haven't been up and down. They've just been playing good football. So, I mean, logic tells you they probably end up with the 1 seed. But again, they have a team in their division that I really think can get there, and the Chiefs are another team that, as of late, look like they can get there.
Yeah, and we'll definitely be getting to the Chiefs here momentarily. But let's go ahead and move on. We're going to move down to the number 2 spot in the AFC playoff picture at the moment, and that is the Tennessee Titans, sitting there at also 8-4. They're coming off a bye this past week. This week, they're taking on Jacksonville, who is 2-10 on the season. Tennessee is favored by 10 points at home, but this is a divisional game. Jacksonville could sneak in there. What do you think?
This is a tough one because they're so beat up. We're going to have to watch the injury report. I know A.J. Brown is going to be eligible to come off soon, but will they activate him yet? Not really sure. Not sure how he's feeling, especially after a bye week. There's no news for a team on their bye week, so we haven't heard anything lately. So if they have A.J. Brown, I feel a lot better, and I think they'll be able to maintain their position where they are now. And Julio, you would have to imagine Julio's coming back soon. And once
I did hear that he is going to be activated off the IR this week.
Okay, so yeah, so they could have both of them back. And down the stretch, that's obviously going to be huge. Those are 2 huge playmakers. And, without Derrick Henry, they need all they can get, and especially because the AFC South teams, they all have very difficult schedules this season. So going down the stretch, they're going to need those guys to step up. It hasn't looked pretty. Tannehill's numbers aren't near what they have been for the past year and a half before 2021. But if they have their stars coming back, I think they'll be able to take care of the Jags, and then move forward from there. Again, keep their position. And, as you said, with the way the Titans beat the Bills earlier this season, and me having the Bills beating the Patriots by the end of Week 14, I think the Titans will be in the number 1 seed in the AFC.
So you're taking the Titans to win this game?
Yeah. Especially if Julio's there, you'd have to imagine. It's the A.J. Brown one for me. That's a big deal. So I guess I'm going to flip-flop on that because, we haven't seen a whole lot from Julio this season when he was in the lineup that made us think, oh, that's the old Julio. Like, he can dominate a game. So I'm really going to be watching A.J. Brown. I might flip my pick on this one if he's not there. But again, Julio, I'm such a big Julio fan. If he's in the lineup, it's hard for me to go against him.
Understandable. I am also taking Tennessee this game. Brad is also going to take Tennessee. He sent us his picks, so we can go ahead and relay that to all you listening. I do want to say that if the Titans overestimate the Jaguars here and the Jags come out with a massive upset, that will put the Titans only 1 game ahead of the Colts, 2 with the head-to-head tiebreaker. But it would appear that the Colts would have a very good shot at overtaking the Titans by the end of the year if the Titans lose this game to Jacksonville. So it'll be interesting to see how this one plays out.
I mean, how insane would that be if, with the way the Colts started, they started, 1-4. They lost both games to the Titans. They were down 2 games, but because of the tiebreaker, 3 games basically to the Titans in the division and still have a chance to win it.
Yeah, that would be absolutely insane. But we'll see what happens with the Jaguars. The only reason why the Titans won the division last year was because the Jags upset the Colts in Week 1. So hopefully we can get some redemption going into this week.
Yeah, that's beautiful. I love that. Just for that, I'm for the first time in my life rooting for the Jaguars.
Hell yeah. All right, moving on to number 3 here. The Baltimore Ravens sitting at 8-4 as well. This last week, they lost to the Pittsburgh Steelers. Big divisional loss here, 20-19. This week, Baltimore is at Cleveland. Cleveland's 6-6. Cleveland is actually favored by 2. Are the Baltimore Ravens in serious trouble heading into Cleveland this week?
It sure feels like it to me. And, this game is so hard to pick because the Browns are on a bye week, so recency bias is like they haven't even been in the fold. But the Ravens haven't looked great offensively lately. They're struggling to get to 20 points. Seems like the Dolphins may have kind of put out the blueprint. You got to think that they put out the blueprint on how to defend the Ravens. They were rushing the quarterback pretty much every time, and as long as you get some of those athletic guys to be able to rush Lamar Jackson, and you're making him make bad decisions. We've seen that over the last couple weeks. I mean, 4 interceptions against the Browns, a couple more interceptions in this last game against Steelers. Like, Lamar, under pressure, has been making bad decisions. His wide receivers can't consistently get open. Rashad Bateman didn't even have a reception against the Steelers. That offense for the Ravens hasn't looked good. And so, it's like I'm not confident with either team. I'm not going to be confident no matter who I pick. I like the Ravens. I would like to pick the Ravens. But obviously, Marcus Peters been out all year. Marlon Humphrey has been one of the best corners in the league over the last 5 years. He is done for the year at this point. They have even more. They're like top 4 or 5 corners are all hurt. That's why they went for 2 at the end of that game, because they knew they weren't going to be able to defend the Steelers because all their corners were hurt. So, it's an unfortunate situation. They've been the most injured team all year long. They're still one of the best teams in the NFL. That it's a huge testament to their coach, John Harbaugh. But as much as I'd like to take the Ravens, I just feel like they're too hurt right now. It's catching up to them, and I think the Browns get a win at home.
Wow, taking the Brownies. Okay.
Low-scoring game. I don't think either offense is very good right now.
Yeah, I agree with you. I'm going to take the Baltimore Ravens purely because They have been dealing with these injuries all season long. At one point, I checked the injury report, and they had like 20 to 30 guys listed, and it's been like that all year round, but somehow they've still managed to find a way to win. And I seem to say this every single week, that good football teams find a way to win. If the Cleveland Browns were 100% healthy and they were playing like the Browns the first few weeks of the season, I would hands down take Cleveland easily. But they're not. They're still banged up themselves. They're not playing very good football either. So it's kind of a toss-up. This is going to be a very close game, which is where the only 2-point differential in favor of the Browns comes into play. So it's going to be a close one. It's going to be a low-scoring, hard-fought battle. But ultimately, I'm going to take the Baltimore Ravens because I do believe good teams find a way to win. And Brad is also taking the Ravens this week.
I love that. I was hoping you were going to be taking the Ravens because for me, it just seems so logical to take the Browns here. But this is going to be that one where it's like, oh, this is an easy pick because the Ravens don't have any cornerbacks now. And then somehow the Browns are going to get like 50 passing yards and lose the game by 4 touchdowns.
Yeah, you never know. So it's going to be a good game regardless. It'll probably be almost like a snooze fest from your average football fan who just wants to see the high-flying 500-yard, 20 touchdown performances that you see, but for the guys who actually love football and can appreciate like a good defensive battle, yeah. So the guys who love those chess matches when it comes to football, this is probably going to be your game of the week right here to watch because it's going to be close. They're going to be grinding it out, and it should be a good one, even though it's not going to be high scoring.
Yep, I completely agree.
All right, moving down to the number 4 spot in the AFC playoff picture is the Kansas City Chiefs, also sitting at 8-4. The top 4 teams here are all 8-4. Last week, Kansas City beat their divisional opponent Denver Broncos 22-9. This week, they're taking on the Las Vegas Raiders, who are sitting at 6-6. KC is favored by 9.5. Are the Chiefs back? It seems like their defense has stepped up huge lately. Will the offense start clicking again before the playoffs begin? What do you think, Hefe?
I think at this point, this obviously isn't the Chiefs team that we're used to. It's not the explosive offense, but holy shit, has that defense turned around. I mean, complete 180 the last 6 weeks. Now, granted, their schedule's been pretty light. Even when they played the Packers, it was the Packers with Jordan Love. But either way, their defense is only giving up, 7 points, 7 points, 9 points, 7 points. Like, they're playing very, very good. They put Chris Jones back on the inside, and they traded for Melvin Ingram. Ever since that time, they've been able to rush the passer, which has helped their secondary. So all over. A couple of the moves they've made have helped them become a better football team, and they're starting to become dominant. I don't think they have to rely on their offense anymore. They just have the stars to be able to score when they need to. And what a luxury to have. And going against the Raiders here, teams that play Washington, it's not a very good parameter on who they are as a football team because Washington just holds the ball. I didn't expect the Raiders to score very, very much because I didn't expect them to hold the ball for very much because Washington holds it for like 40 minutes a game right now. And the Raiders have been struggling. They only put up 15 points. I thought they'd at least be able to get to 20 or 21 in that game. But they've been struggling. They've had so much going on this year. It's not getting any better. Deshaun Jackson's been a non-factor. He was supposed to come in, take over that Henry Ruggs role, and keep this offense going. Bryan Edwards is a second-year receiver for them. It has been a complete bust 2 years in a row, especially after Henry Ruggs went out. They needed him to step up. Has not happened. So I don't have any faith in the Raiders. Their defense is getting worse as the year goes on, which is odd. That's usually the other way around. Defenses usually tighten up as the year goes on, but the Raiders are falling apart at the seams right now. They're 6-6. I think by the end of this week they will be under 500.
All right, and I assume you're taking the Chiefs this game. Absolutely.
Taking the Chiefs at home. That's right.
I am also taking the Chiefs. Brad is taking the Chiefs, so we are all three in agreement with that matchup. Moving on to the AFC wild card positions, Right now, Buffalo Bills sits at number 5 at 7-4. If they beat New England on Monday Night Football, they're going to be 8-4. If they lost, they're 7-5 and still sitting in the AFC wild card. This coming week, or not this this coming week, because they still got to play Patriots from week 13. In week 14, Buffalo is traveling to the defending Super Bowl champions, Tampa Bay Buccaneers, who are 9-3. Tampa is only favored by 3 points here. What do you think? What do you think? How do you think this game's going to turn out?
This was a tough one for me. When I was looking at this and trying to make my picks earlier, I was looking at this game and probably sat there and thought about it for literally 10 or 15 minutes because I have a lot of faith in the Bills. It's no secret. I'm a huge Josh Allen fan, Stephon Diggs. I like that team a lot. But they've been inconsistent, even though I think they can beat the Patriots because of matchup. I don't think this is a matchup they'll win. I think without Trey White, it's going to affect them because the Bucks don't need to run the ball to win games. Tom Brady just passed more than 50 times against the freaking Falcons. Like, they don't care about running the ball. And you don't – most teams don't run very well against the Bills. I don't expect the Bucks to try to in this game. Tom Brady probably going to sling it 40 or 50 times. This game's down in Florida instead of Buffalo, so that you don't have to worry about weather really in this game. We're pretty much out of rainy season. Don't got to worry about rain or anything like that. So this should be a great game between two really good teams. But I just think that what the Bucks bring is going to be too much. I think Trey White against really good teams, that Trey White injury is going to be a big deal, and I think that shows up here in Week 14 against the Bucks, and the Bucks get the win.
Yeah, I agree with you, Brad. I would assume also agrees because he is also taking the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. The Bills are a good football team. I just don't think they're on the level of the Buccaneers. They definitely have some vulnerabilities that have been exploited over the last few weeks. But, yeah, whether or not they beat New England in Week 13, I don't see them turning around and beating the Buccaneers the following week. But they definitely have to pull out 1 or 2 wins against the Patriots, or else they're going to be in trouble of not even making the playoffs towards the end of the year. So, Bills, for now, they're in there in the AFC wild card, but they could very easily lose control if they start losing games in the next few weeks, really.
Yeah, I mean, these are 3 huge games because I believe when we were talking about the Patriots, you said that the Patriots had the Bills, another team, and then the Bills. That means the Bills have the Patriots, the Buccaneers, and the Patriots. That's, one hell of a 3-game stretch. So, very important time for the Bills, and we're really going to see what they're made of. Are they a playoff team? We'll know after Week 15.
Yeah, so I'm sitting here looking at the schedule now. They have New England Monday Night Football. By the time you're listening to this, that result is already in. They have Tampa coming this week. They're at Tampa. Then after that, they have Carolina, which should be a win there. Following that, they are at New England, which going into Foxborough at the end of December. That could be a tough one, even though you're Buffalo, you're used to the weather and all that. But New England is a very tough place to win that. After that, you have 2 cakewalks in Atlanta and New York. So I would say you have to at least beat New England once or twice if you're not going to beat Tampa Bay. You can't afford to lose all 3 of those because that's even though you're going to probably beat Carolina, Atlanta, and New York, you can't go 3-3 with how stacked the middle of the AFC is right now.
Yeah, that's how I feel too. With the way the AFC is, maybe a 9-win team gets in, so maybe 10 is good enough. But I feel the exact same way. You have to win one of the games in those 3 stretches you were talking about. Preferably the Patriots on Monday Night Football at home against the division rival. That's the one that they have the best chance of winning. You can't expect to go up against playoff teams on the road and think you can win. So if they want to continue to control their own destiny, they got to win against Patriots. And again, if you're hearing this, you already know whether they have or not. But I think they'll be able to get it done, and I think they'll be able to squeak out one of these playoff spots.
We shall find out. All right, moving on to the number 6 spot is the Los Angeles Chargers at 7-5. Last week, big win against the Cincinnati Bengals, 41-22. This week they're taking on the New York Giants, who are sitting at 4-8. The Chargers are favored by 10 points at home. Who are you taking?
This one's pretty easy for me. I heard a little while ago before we started this recording, again on Monday this week, that Jake Fromm was in line to start for the Giants instead of Mike Glennon. Is that going to be better? Probably not, because at least Mike Glennon knows what NFL defenses look like in live action. Jake Fromm has no experience. So I thought, the Chargers do one thing well on defense, and that is protect the pass. They might have Asante Samuel Jr. back? Probably not. From what I've heard, he's probably going to be another week or two before Samuel Jr. gets back out there with his injury. But either way, I just don't think this is going to be a Jake Fromm coming out party. I think this New York offense, even after the firing of Jason Garrett, has scored 1 touchdown in 2 games. I have zero faith that the Giants are going to be able to pick it up, even though I'd like them to. It's a team that has a lot of guys that I like, but they have been very disappointing. I think they do it again. And the Chargers, have been inconsistent. So would I be surprised if they lost this game? No, I wouldn't. But do I expect them to lose? Absolutely not. I'm hammering the Chargers to cover this week.
Yeah, I agree. I'm also taking the Chargers. Brad's taking the Chargers. The Chargers have to be very careful. You definitely cannot afford to lose a game like this, because you also have to play Kansas City again, and then you have divisional games against Denver and at Las Vegas. In between there is Houston, which should be a win. So you can't afford to lose a game you should win, especially with 3 divisional games left on your schedule when you're sitting here in the number 6 spot. So should be an easy win for the Chargers, especially with the way Justin Herbert balled out last week. But we will see. All 3 of us are taking the Chargers in this one. Moving on to the number 7 spot is the Cincinnati Bengals at 7-5. Like we just said, last week they lost to the Chargers 41-22. This week they're taking on the San Francisco 49ers at 6-6. Currently, the Bengals are favored by only a point. How much will Joe Burrow's pinky injury affect him, which he played through last week? And do you think the Cincinnati Bengals can beat the San Francisco 49ers?
Yes, I do. I think this is going to be one of the better games of the week. I don't think that pinky's going to matter very much. I think he can basically play without it and be able to throw a football perfectly fine for the most part. Again, I think this is going to be a great game. This is another one that I really had to think about. But if it doesn't sound like Debo's going to be back in this one, and if he was, I might take the Niners. But even with George Kittle having his coming out party, it's just there's just something about the Niners that I can't get behind. I don't know. They don't have that it factor. We've seen the it factor from the Bengals. We've also seen them shit the bed. They were down 24-0 at one point to the Chargers, and then came back and then shot themselves in the foot with turnovers at the end. This is a game where I think they come out and honestly, this pick wasn't even completely football analysis for me. It's like, this past week, I had a feeling that I should have taken the Lions, even though everything told me I should take the Vikings. And Adam Thielen gets hurt just like that. The Vikings the Lions have a chance to win, and they did. There was another game this past week that, I had a feeling. It was the Bengals Chargers. I felt like I should have taken the Chargers because the Bengals are inconsistent. But I went ahead and took the Bengals because the logic told me to. Well, logic is telling me that I want to take the Bengals here, and my feeling on this one was that I should take the Bengals here. So I will be taking the Bengals on this one.
Well, Brad is in agreement with you. He is also taking the Bengals. I am going to take the 49ers. I know they've dealt with injuries all season long. They've been doing that for 2 years now. They've been up and down all season, but they are still right there in contention in the NFC. I think Joe Burrow's pinky injury will affect his performance just a little bit. May not be with his throwing motion or anything like that, but I think it'll do just enough that San Francisco can go in there and pull out the 1-point upset over the Cincinnati Bengals. So I'm taking the Niners. You two are taking the Bengals on this one. All right, moving to number 8. On the outside, looking in right now is the Pittsburgh Steelers sitting at 6-5-1. Squeaked out a huge win against the Baltimore Ravens 2019 last week. This week, they're playing the Minnesota Vikings, who are 5-7. The Vikings are actually a 3-point favorite on Thursday night. Rumors are swirling about Big Ben saying he's done. Do you think he's for real, or do you think he's trying to bring his squad together for their playoff push? Kind of like Ray Lewis did with the Ravens when he told everybody that this was it. The Ravens came together and they ended up winning a Super Bowl.
Yeah, well, I think there's probably a bit of an element to that. I think it's also the fact that Ryan Clark, one of the most famous Steelers to be on TV talking about football every day, just said last week that Big Ben needs to be benched, which is a pretty serious thing to say because we've seen what the Steelers look like with Mason Rudolph in the game. So, do they really want to be? I think Big Ben is still a better option than Mason Rudolph at this point. But yes, I do believe Big Ben's going to be done after this year. The difference with this team and that Ravens team you were speaking about is the amount of talent that were on the Ravens were loaded. Joe Flacco, I know, was their quarterback, but that defense was still the best in the league when Ray Lewis was there, and they had some weapons on offense to boot. So, I don't have much faith in the Steelers. The Steelers only won that game against Baltimore because there were so many injuries to the corners, and they still only got 20 points put on the board. So, I think Adam Thielen being out, initially I did pick the Steelers to win this game. But there's a guy that if you've watched our fantasy shows this year that I've been high on, and he's finally about to have a shot to show the world what he's got because Adam Thielen's out, and that's KJ Osborne, who is a serious player. If he was somewhere else right now that didn't have 2 star wide receivers, he would be a star wide receiver somewhere. He is a very good player, and I think he's going to step in and fill in great. Him and Justin Jefferson together, they're going to be a crazy duo, which is about to make Adam Thielen trade bait. In my opinion, because I think watching KJ Osborne and Justin Jefferson, that's going to be something we'll see for a long time coming. But I think, Adam Thielen, Dalvin Cook, very good players, but they're backups again. KJ Osborne and Alexander Mattison. Every time Dalvin Cook's out, Alexander Mattison fills in and does a great job for that offense. And it's still a very potent offense. I don't think the Steelers secondary is very good, so I think Kirk will torch him this year, who's been playing very, very well, very underrated this season. So, the Vikings, this could come back to bite me. Right now it's 50-50 split on ESPN Pick'em, but I will be taking the Vikings to win at home on Thursday Night Football.
All right. Surprisingly, Brad is also taking the Minnesota Vikings. Are you sure you want to take the Vikings if he's taking them?
Yeah, I'd seen that earlier that he wanted to take the Vikings, and that was part of the reason I initially picked the Steelers. But I feel too good about the Vikings offense. I think they'll be able to pull this one out.
All right. Well, since Brad isn't here, he doesn't have an opportunity to talk about what happened last weekend with the Vikings losing to the Detroit Lions. There is probably just one thing I know he really wants to say. You want to go ahead and say it for him?
Yeah, man. Fuck them Vikings.
Yeah.
And of course, I had a feeling in the back of my mind last week when he started saying the curse is done, the curse is done. In the back of my mind, I was like, man, don't start dancing on it now or else it's going to rear its ugly head. And the freaking Lions, the worst offense in the last 15 years, was able to beat the Vikings.
Oh yeah, we'll get to all that here in a little bit. I do want to kind of backtrack on what you had said earlier when you were talking about how you had that feeling that the Lions might win it. And I was sitting here thinking, yeah, there's probably some guys out there that are like, oh yeah, fucking right, they didn't fucking think that shit. Blah blah blah. Go back to last week's tape. Hefe and I both said, don't be surprised if the Detroit Lions beat the fucking Vikings, and look what happened.
And look what happened. We know what we're talking about. They're a little biased here and there when we're talking about the Patriots or the Steelers or some shit, but we know what we're talking about.
That's right. So, yeah, Hefe, Brad, both taking the Vikings. I'm actually going to take Pittsburgh here. I think the Thielen injury will hurt the Vikings more than we think. So I'm going to dissent, and I'm taking the Steelers in this matchup.
Yeah, I don't think it should be understated that Cam Hayward Probably not going to be able to be ready for this Thursday night game. Probably would have if it was a Sunday game. But Cam Hayward is one of the best interior defensive linemen in the league, a possible future Hall of Famer. And him not being there is going to hurt that run game. So I think, the Vikings, it's going to be a game where they control the clock with Alexander Madison, and that's what they lean on to get the win.
All right. Sitting right behind the Pittsburgh Steelers at number 9 is the Indianapolis Colts. They are 7-6 on the year. They completely blew out the Houston Texans, shut them out, won 31-0. This week they are on the bye. They could slide into the wild card, even being on a bye with some key losses, in particular the Bills, as the Colts own the head-to-head tiebreaker. We need some things to happen there, but the Colts could find themselves in the wild card by this time next week. So anything you want to say about the Colts? How's their schedule looking up as we head towards the end of the year?
So their schedule going towards the end of the year gets a little scary, right? You have the bye week, and then you have to play the Patriots and the Cardinals, but then you finish with the Raiders and a division game that they should be able to pull out against the Jags. So I think just like pretty much everybody at this point, you feel good about the Colts, but there's a little bit of reservation because they can't finish the games against the playoff teams. The Rams, they lost by 3. They could have won that game. It's a good team. The 2 games against the Titans, you could have won those games. You can't finish them out. The Ravens, you couldn't finish that game out. The Bucs, you can't finish it out. It's just been so hard after they play really well against good teams and then they fuck it up and they lose those games. So, after the bye week, first of all, before I continue, fuck a week 14 bye week. I don't know who the fuck thought that was a good idea. That's almost a full 2020 NFL schedule. Who thought that was a good idea? Week 12 should be the cutoff for bye weeks, and that's pushing it. I would like, get between week 4, week 10, everybody gets their bye week in that time, and then the front end and the back end everybody plays. But that it's just I wanted to get that ran out there. Week 13 and 14 bye weeks. How unlucky. But the Colts are also going into that bye week as one of the healthier teams in the league. Obviously, I would love to see Julian Blackmon out there, who I don't know who the announcers were for the Colts game. Fucking idiots. So called him Justin Blackmon like 18 times.
I think it's Adam Archuleta.
Yeah, and
I think he was on the call.
The Colts were torching the Texans all day, and they were like, "Oh, well, this Colts team just not very good. Oh, this Colts team not going to be able to get it done down the stretch." Like, the Colts have played the defending Super Bowl champions well. They've played other really good teams well. It's just, can they finish games down the stretch?
They blew the fucking Bills out the water.
Yeah, the Bills, a playoff team, and they were able to dominate the Bills. So you want to see them string that together consecutively over the next couple. Again, Patriots after the bye. Huge rivalry game, but a new age of it. Used to be Tom and Peyton. Now it's going to be Mac and Carson. And hopefully the Colts can start themselves on the right side of that. Cardinals is going to be another very tough game.
That game was flexing onto a Saturday night at 8:20.
Yes, it was. Yeah, Colts finally getting some primetime love. Oh, man, honestly, can't wait for that game. It sucks that I want to see them play right now. But, can they get it done? Absolutely. I wish I was more confident in the fact that they'll be able to get it done, but they can win any kind of way. They can pass the ball and win games. They can run the ball and win games. With the defense, we've seen them play well. We've seen them play bad. Again, it's the consistency. Play a full 60 minutes. And there was a speech that T.Y., if you watch Hard Knocks, Colts Hard Knocks in season, you'll probably see it this upcoming Wednesday. If you're watching this, it's out right now. They've probably had somewhere in there the speech that T.Y. gave to the team before the Houston game, where he talked about how good teams win games against bad opponents, but they play down to their competition. Great teams dominate every single game. And hopefully that's the motto that they take forward, because it would be nice to see them play these next two games after a bye and actually be able to dominate some good teams and get themselves into the playoffs where they control their own destiny. That's the objective after the bye week. Control your own fucking destiny and win games.
Absolutely. I don't have much to add to that. Hit the nail on the head.
Yeah, I went on about pretty much anything and everything right there. Sorry about that.
No, you're good. You're good. So we'll move on. Number 10 in the AFC seeding right now is the Las Vegas Raiders. They're on a downslope. They're 6-6. Last week they lost to the Washington football team on a heartbreaker, 17-15, which we'll get to Washington here soon. I got some things to say about them. This week, like I said earlier, they're at Kansas City, 8-4. We've already put our picks in. All three of us are unanimous with the Kansas City Chiefs. Is there anything else you want to add with the Las Vegas Raiders here?
Not really. Just the fact that it's disappointing. Anybody who's listened to us for a decent amount of time knows I'm a Derek Carr guy. I like the Raiders. I'd like to see him winning. And Derek Carr was playing really good football, and then the Henry Ruggs thing happened. And it's been a shit show ever since. Obviously the John Gruden thing happened too, but they had a couple good games after that. And it just hasn't been the same without Henry Ruggs. That offense is broken. The defense, I don't know what happened. The defense is broken too. It's all falling apart. So unfortunately, they're probably going to continue to slide down in the rankings. There are 3 6-6 teams here, and soon enough, they'll be down in the Jets territory.
Yeah, I agree with you. All right, so right after them is the Cleveland Browns, also at 6-6. They're coming off a bye. Like we said earlier, they're taking on Baltimore, who is 8-4. We already discussed our picks. Hefe's taking the Browns. Brad and I are going to take the Ravens in this game. Is there anything else you want to say about the Browns?
Just that even though I think they're going to beat the Ravens this week, this is one of those circumstantial things where it's only because the Ravens are so hurt. If they didn't have the cornerback injuries, I would think that the Ravens win this game, but they're just so far hurt that I think the Browns win the game, but I don't think the Browns are a playoff team. I think they continue to slide down the stretch and miss the playoffs this season.
All right, and the third 6-6 team is sitting here at number 12. That's the Denver Broncos. Last week they lost to Kansas City 22-9. This week they're taking on the Detroit Lions, who are now 1-10-1 on the season. The Broncos are favored by 8 points at home. Who are you taking in this game?
So this is one that, I don't really have to think about much. Like, the only reason the Lions won the game against the Vikings is because Adam Thielen and Dalvin Cook weren't there. Like, there was some opportunity. But going up against the Broncos, like the Denver defense was not the problem at all against the Chiefs. They actually played really well considering what they were facing. So as they continue to play well, Patrick Surtain got an interception on Patrick Mahomes. And he's slowly becoming one of the better corners in the league as a rookie. They're stacked on defense. They play so well on defense. And this is a game where I think, Denver seems to be one of those every other game teams, and they're at home in this one. I think they'll get some juice from that. The Lions are again historically bad offense. They're terrible. They play tough defense sometimes, but that's not going to matter. I feel like even if Melvin Gordon, if he does play, I think he'll be second fiddle. I think Javonte Williams made his case as to why he should be the lead back. He played very well without Melvin Gordon there. So, I think they're better off without Melvin Gordon, honestly. But I do think Denver is able to put up enough points in this one. And, I don't even know if the Lions would be able to score a touchdown in this game, honestly. So I will be taking the Broncos.
Agreed. Brad and I are right there with you. We are also taking the Denver Broncos this week. Right behind the Broncos are the Miami Dolphins at 6-7. Last week, they won against the New York Giants 20-9. That's 5 wins in a row, although their only quality win in that stretch was against the Baltimore Ravens. They are on bye this next week. Anything you want to say about the Miami Dolphins, Hefe?
The Dolphins are a very intriguing team right now because, while they're on a good winning streak, it hasn't always been, the most top flight competition in the NFL. But either way, you hear all the time it's hard as hell to win in the NFL. And I think that's a real thing. And to string together five of them, especially, being 1-7, everybody wrote the Dolphins off. Are they a team that can make a run? I think they can make it interesting as we go down the line. But will they get in the playoffs? I don't think so.
Probably not. It's definitely a hill they got to climb up. But like we said, this week they're on a bye. However, following their bye week, they're taking on the New York Jets, New Orleans Saints, who are struggling, and the Tennessee Titans, who, if they don't get healthy quick, that could be a win for the Miami Dolphins. So that's three out of their last four games. The fourth game is against the Patriots. I would assume the Patriots win that unless the Patriots are sitting starters. So it's potential that the Dolphins could pull off 4 wins to end the season, which would put them at 10-7. And if some key losses happen for all the teams above them, the Miami Dolphins might slip in there very, very quietly, even though they would be on a 9-game win streak at that point. So it'll be interesting to see how that all plays out for the Dolphins, but chances are not going to happen. We'll find out. All right, still in contention is the New York Jets, sitting at 14 at 3-9. Last week, they lost to Philadelphia 33-18. This week, they're taking on the New Orleans Saints, who are struggling to find their identity, struggling to find a capable quarterback. The Saints are 5-7 heading into New York, and the Saints are favored by 6. Who are you taking in this game?
So, as much as I want to, come back in the pick 'em and I want to sit here and say that I think there is an avenue for the Jets to upset the Saints. Saints aren't the greatest team offensively, no matter what quarterback they seem to start. After Jameis got hurt, they were a pretty competitive team with Jameis, but Taysom Hill, we saw when the game's on the line and he has to make passes to win the game, he's going to throw interceptions. So it's hard to go with the Saints, but it's the Jets defense, which is really, really bad. And so that's really what it comes down to for me is defense against defense. I think the Saints have a good defense, and going up against a rookie quarterback, I think they'll be able to get after him a lot in the game. I think they'll be able to force him into making his own mistakes, and maybe even score a defensive touchdown in this game. There's just no faith that the Jets are going to be able to score enough. Even if I could easily see this being a game where the final score is like 16-6, wouldn't surprise me at all. 1 touchdown in the entire game and a bunch of field goals by both teams. I think this is going to be an ugly game. Again, no matter who the quarterback is for the Saints, but I do think the Saints defense is good enough to win them this game.
Agree. Brad and I are also taking the New Orleans Saints here. So right behind the New York Jets at 14 is still mathematically possible of making the playoffs. The Jacksonville Jaguars at 2-10. How crazy is that you're sitting at 2-10 and you still have a chance of making the playoffs?
Yeah, thank God all the AFC teams are beating each other. Like, there's no way going into week 14 having 2 wins. There's no way that should be possible.
I know, right? So last week, the Jags lost to the Los Angeles Rams 37-7. This week, like we said earlier, they're heading to Tennessee for a big AFC South divisional game. As a Colts fan, I'm really hoping the Jags can pull one out there. We already discussed our picks. Everybody's taking Tennessee. Anything else you want to say about the Jags?
Yeah, let's hope they win this game. Don't think it's going to happen, but the thing that worries me about the Jags is the fact that, there was so much hype for Trevor Lawrence, and we just haven't seen anything special at any point. And I understand the team around him isn't very good, and so I want to give him that leeway. The fact that, a couple of his best receivers have been hurting out. The offensive line isn't very good. Travis Etienne, the other first-round pick for the Jags, hasn't played at all in the regular season because of a preseason injury. Like, all the excuses are there. and you'll hear everybody in the offseason is going to talk about Trevor Lawrence, and they'll be like, well, Peyton Manning had 28 interceptions his rookie year. Like, that's the excuse for every rookie quarterback. Will he be able to turn it around? His track record of success makes you think that it's very possible, but can it happen with Urban Meyer there? Will it happen with Tony Khan as the owner? Because things haven't been great with him there. Like, there's something wrong. I feel like organizationally that needs to change. And will it happen? It's definitely not going to happen this year. I hope it's able to happen for Trevor Lawrence in the future. Obviously, I hope the Jaguars are a 500 or worse team every year. But I do like Trevor Lawrence and hope it gets better for him at some point.
Yeah, I think at some point it will get better for him. The dude is absolutely talented. I think he will develop into a better overall quarterback. He is just a rookie, and he's on a very, very shitty football team with a apparently shitty coaching staff who's rookies themselves in the league. So I think it will get better. Will it get better with Urban Meyer? Probably not. If Urban's able, I don't know who the offensive coordinator is in Jacksonville, but if Urban's able to bring in a very competent offensive coordinator, that might be able to help Trevor Lawrence develop even further. It's a sad situation for him to be in Jacksonville and have a rookie coaching staff that he has now in a pretty shitty team, because I think the dude is crazy talented. And if he gets an opportunity to really showcase that, I think he will turn some heads, hands down. So that's all I really got to say about that. We'll move on to the Houston Texans, which is the 16th team in the AFC. However, they are the only team in the NFL that is mathematically eliminated from playoff contention. They are 2-10 on the season, got shut out by the Indianapolis Colts last week. This week, they're taking on the Seattle Seahawks at home. The Seahawks are favored by 7.5. Who are you taking?
This one's pretty simple, right? I mean, again, I don't know how. Detroit is only got one win, and they're not even mathematically eliminated. Like, sucks to be a Texans fan, huh? Get shit on, kid. The Seahawks offense looked like it worked. They changed things up, bringing in Adrian Peterson to be, goal line back, short yardage kind of back. That's something they've really been missing with Chris Carson out, is somebody that can get them the hard yards. And Adrian Peterson can still do it. Like you mentioned at the beginning of this episode, he was able to get into the end zone and move, I believe, in a tie with Jim Brown for top 10 all-time in rushing touchdowns. And obviously, over the next few weeks, he should be able to get past Jim Brown there. Probably in this game against the Texans can't defend the run very well. And I think the Seahawks come in and Russ cooks again and is able to get the win.
I agree. I also have Seattle winning this game. However, Brad is taking the upset and picking the Houston Texans to beat the Seattle Seahawks. I would assume that's purely from his love-hate relationship with Pete Carroll. That would be my guess. Any thoughts on why he took the Houston Texans?
No, that's what I was about to say. Like, I think people should take a lesson from this that watch our show. I picked the Patriots and Tom Brady to win, and I fucking hate both of them. And Brad hates Pete Carroll and the Seahawks so much that he's taken the Texans to beat them.
Who knows, man? He might be onto something. What if Houston comes out and wins this? I don't know. I wouldn't know what else to say.
Yeah, scored 2 touchdowns against the Jets, put up 0 points against the Colts. It's a bold strategy, Cotton.
Yeah, I will say, though, with the Houston Texans going forward, I think you just need to shut Tyrod Taylor down. Look at trading him. I don't know what the contract situation is with him. I don't know if he's on a 1-year deal or not. Shut him down and really put Davis Mills in there and see how much you can develop him before you head into next year, because when the draft comes, you're going to need to know if you need to go looking for a quarterback, because let's face it, Deshaun Watson's done in Houston. Everybody knows it, regardless whether the trade situation or the allegations against him, he's done. So you have to find a quarterback. I think they definitely need to put Davis Mills in there, let him finish out the year, see what you have in him so you have a better thought going into the draft. Any comments real quick on that?
Yeah, so I think that's the right move. You get Davis Mills, because this quarterback draft for 2022, it's not very deep. There are a couple guys that excite you a little bit, but they're all kind of, prospects, guys that you're going to want to get into a system, let them sit at least a year, and then hope that they can be that guy. So I think you want to get Davis Mills in there to get him more in tuned with this system, and you keep Davis Mills and this coaching staff into next year, and you do what you can next year. But try to trade Deshaun Watson when you can, get some draft picks, and then get a quarterback after that. That's what I would do.
All right. That's it for the AFC side of things. We're going to move on to the NFC, kind of speed things along. I know we're getting short on time. So we'll start with the number 1 Arizona Cardinals at 10-2. Last week, they won against the Chicago Bears, 33-22. This week, divisional foe, big game, Los Angeles Rams are coming into town. The Rams are sitting at 8-4. This game's on Monday night. Should Kyler Murray be an MVP candidate? Do you think he will take care of the Los Angeles Rams this week? Who are you taking on the game?
Should he be an MVP candidate at this point? No, because he missed a couple games. If he didn't miss so many games, I'd say yes. But I think the MVP has to be somebody that's there every week. I think that's only right. So, he's played very well. He doesn't turn the ball over a lot. Like he's had a very good year, and that's why they have the best record in the league. And, we've seen too much of Detroit, Matthew Stafford in LA. And I think we see a little more of that when the game's on the line. He's going to, do his usual gunslinger thing, and he's going to hit some passes that you're like, holy shit, how did he do that? And then he's going to make some bonehead mistake and end up costing his team the game. The Cardinals are rolling right now. Again, best team in the entire league. And I think they stay that way after week 14.
Brad and I agree. We're both taking the Arizona Cardinals this week against the Los Angeles Rams.
And mark my words. Sorry to cut you off. My score prediction for this one is 31-20.
31-20. All right. Noted. Number 2 in the NFC is the Green Bay Packers at 9-3. They're coming off a bye this last week. They're taking on Chicago, 4-8, heading into Lambeau Sunday night. Aaron Rodgers owns the Bears. Does he continue to own them?
Oh yeah, he's getting even more stakes in the Bears after this one. The Bears offense is bad, and it sounds like they're not concrete going with Justin Fields. He may not be ready yet with his injury. Andy Dalton just got picked off 4 times, so they may tell Justin Fields, like, get over it, princess, you're playing this week. But also a rookie that's injured, do you push him when your team is basically out of the playoff hunt at this point? Probably not. So Aaron Rodgers, that toe, he got a rushing touchdown on a fractured toe. It's obviously not messing with him. He got a very minor surgery in his bye week to repair it. So Aaron Rodgers, Devontae Adams, that offense going to come out, do what they do, get an easy win at home.
Agreed. Brad and I are also taking the Green Bay Packers. All right, sitting at number 3, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, 9-3. Last week they won against the Atlanta Falcons, 30-17. Like we said earlier, they're taking on the Buffalo Bills, who at the time of this recording is 7-4. Tampa's all but locked up the division. They're looking for seeding with a chance at the number 1 seed still. It's a big game for Buffalo. We all 3 took the Buccaneers in this one, right?
That is correct.
All right. Anything else you want to say about this game?
Just that they're one of those teams that have their flaws, but they find ways to win. They obviously Tom Brady's on the team, so that kind of elevates them automatically. But they're everybody knew they were going to be a dangerous team, but the fact that they've had so many injuries, and kind of like the Ravens, and then just keep finding ways to win. Now they're getting healthy. That secondary is starting to get some guys back, and that's going to make their defense even more dangerous. That front for them, we know how good it is. The fact that they're getting some of these guys back in the secondary, the league should be very afraid.
Absolutely. Okay, sitting here at number 4 is the Dallas Cowgirls. Boys. They're 8-4. Last week, they won against New Orleans 27-17. This week, taking on the Washington football team, who are at 6-6, only 2 games behind Dallas in the NFC East. Win here would almost put the division out of reach for the Cowboys. However, we're at that round robin stage towards the end of the year where the NFC East is playing at each other every single week. Who you taking in this game? This is a pretty big game. If they lose, Washington's going to be one game behind Dallas. Who are you taking?
So, I want to have faith in the Cowboys, man, because I'm a Dak guy. I like Dak a lot. I want to see him succeed. I want to see him get into the playoffs, win this goddamn division, especially after the injury he had last season. But I am one of those people, Zach mentioned it earlier, one of those people that loves the chess game of football. I like to see, exciting football is always fun to watch, right? But I like methodical football. And Ron Rivera and the Washington football team over their last 4 games have been methodical. I mean, a masterclass in football when you watch the Washington football team recently. And, the Cowboys had no business in beating the Saints. Like, I'm sorry, even with all their guys in the lineup. Amari Cooper, CeeDee Lamb came back in the lineup. Zeke was playing. Like, they had everybody. They had their starting 5 on the offensive line for the first time all season. And they still had no business of winning. The New Orleans offense is just trash. So in this game, what do I think happens? I think the same thing that keeps happening in every Washington game. I think the Cowboys are going to be limited in opportunities, and they have too many 3-and-outs every game for me to be confident in the fact that they're going to be able to get to 20 points. I don't think they get to 20 points here. I think Washington is able to score at least 3 touchdowns in this game. Antonio Gibson is probably going to run all over the Cowboys here and control the clock. That's what they've been doing. I would expect 1 or 2 15-play, 8, 9, 10-minute drives from Washington in this game. I think Washington moves closer to winning this division, which they will inevitably do by beating the Cowboys this weekend.
I happen to agree with you. I do believe I took Washington in the preseason to win the division. If not, it was a very close second to the Dallas Cowboys. Regardless, I have Washington winning this game. They are quietly on a 4-game win streak. They are looking better, and I do think they sneak in there and pull this to within 1 game heading down the stretch in this round-robin NFC East fight that they're going to have the last few weeks of the season. Brad, on the other hand, is taking the Cowboys, so we'll see how that all plays out. All right, we'll move on to number 5 here, the Los Angeles Rams sitting at 8-4 last week. They won against the Jacksonville Jags 37-7. Like we said, they're taking it on the Arizona Cardinals. They're heading to Phoenix, and we're all taking the Cardinals in this game. It's actually a statement game for the Rams. Do the Rams have to win this game?
Yes, this is the most important game of their season at this point. The position that they're in with, they need to be able to keep themselves within distance of the Cardinals. Obviously the Cardinals win this game, which we expect them to. They basically have won the NFC West at this point. They'll be able to rest their starters for like the last 2 weeks of the season with the way it goes. So the Rams have to win. They have to keep themselves in contention. Not only do they need to win this game to try to keep up with the Cardinals, but the Washington football team, which we expect to win, they're on their heels right now. They'll be within 1 game of the Rams, and they look like a good football team right now. The Niners are in that division. They're in the 7th seed. They're right behind them. So, they have to be careful. They're starting to fall back to these other teams that, we thought there was a gap with the top 5 in the NFC and then everybody else. The Rams are starting to look like everybody else right now and separated from the top 4. So, this is going to be a huge game for the Rams. Again, we all on this show, we like Matthew Stafford a lot. We want to see him succeed. So I hope he wins, but I don't think he will.
All right, sitting here right behind the Rams is the Washington football team at 6-6. Last week, they won against the Las Vegas Raiders 17-15. Like we said, they're taking on the Dallas Cowboys, who are 8-4. Not a must-win mathematically for the Washington football team, but if they want a chance at the division and to at least separate themselves from the wild card pack, I think this is kind of a must-win for the Washington football team, which we've already talked about. You and I think they will get it done. Brad's taking the Cowboys. But what do you think about this being a must-win for the Washington football team?
Yeah, absolutely. Must-win. Can they make the playoffs if they lose this game? Absolutely. But this would – if they win this game against the Cowboys, They would have to basically lose out to really be threatened to not make the playoffs. So this is a huge game for Washington. And again, I think they're able to get it done. But if they don't, they still have more than enough chance to be able to get in there.
All right. And right here at the final NFC wildcard spot is the San Francisco 49ers at 6-6. Last week, they lost to the Seattle Seahawks 30-23. This week, they're taking on the Cincinnati Bengals, who were 7-5. A big loss last week, still in the wild card, but can't afford another loss here. Anything else you got to say about this game?
No, not really. Not about the game. I think it's interesting that the 2-7 seeds got to play each other this week. That's kind of cool. But I think the Niners take another step back here. I think it's really disappointing that they lost. They looked so good, and then the Seahawks had looked so bad, and then they let the Seahawks offense go wild on them. So another one of those inconsistent teams this year. I just can't trust them. I don't trust Jimmy G to be the guy to lead them to the promised land. So I think they'll fall out.
You're taking the Bengals in this game, right?
I did pick the Bengals, yep.
All right, so you and Brad got the Bengals, and I'm taking the 49ers here. So, all right, right behind them on the outside looking in is the Philadelphia Eagles. Minshew Mania came out, led the Eagles to a 33-18 victory over the New York Jets. Do we have a quarterback controversy in Philadelphia yet again?
Nick Sirianni, rookie head coach, give him props because he put that flame out right after the game. Like, nah, if Jalen's ready to go, he's our quarterback. But, Minshew played well enough that I think if Jalen, if this is, another, couple week kind of thing, then, you feel comfortable with him in there. He was able to put up a bunch of points. It was a weak opponent, but it didn't look, terrible. He had a pretty good completion percentage, wasn't turning the ball over. So, good job by Minshew Mania. If you guys listened to this show last week, I told you, you got to ride it. You got to ride Minshew's mustache to victory. And it happened this past week. So, good for him, good for the Eagles. I think they have a chance to be able to squeak into the playoffs because the 49ers, again, don't have a whole lot of faith in them. So I think if there's anybody they'd flip with, I think the Eagles get in and the 49ers are out.
I don't know about you, but I'm not riding anybody's mustache, but that's just me. All right. With that said, the Eagles are on a bye this week, and that'll give Jalen Hurts a week to rest up and heal, and we'll see him hopefully come back in a couple weeks. If not, Gardner proved that he can get the job done as well. So right behind the Philadelphia Eagles is the Minnesota Vikings. Huge disappointment. They're sitting there 5-7, lost to the Detroit Lions 29-27. This week they're taking on Pittsburgh 7-5. This is a must-win for Minnesota. Going to be difficult losing Adam Thielen now. Although you and Brad are both taking Minnesota, I am taking Pittsburgh. Anything else you want to say on this game or about the Minnesota Vikings?
Just the Vikings, this Vikings team reminds me a lot of the Colts teams that I grew up with. In the sense, obviously, it's not Peyton and Reggie and Marvin and Edrin and all them. It's not the same cast. But, as a Colts fan, I was so used to the offense being able to put up 35, 45 points a game with ease. Like when you watch the Colts as a Colts fan, you just expected them to at least get a field goal every drive. But the defense always let you down when it mattered most. And that's been happening to the Vikings. The Vikings offense is so good, but their defense is so fucking bad. And they're going to miss the playoffs because of it. And I hate to see it.
Yep. I agree with you 110%. All right, right behind the Minnesota Vikings is the Carolina Panthers at 5-7. They're coming off the bye. This week they're taking on the Atlanta Falcons at 5-7. Loser of this game, in my opinion, is all but done on the season. Who you taking?
Yeah, we have Carolina and Atlanta both here, 10-11. They're both 5-7. Carolina just ahead of the Falcons because of some kind of tiebreaker here. But just like you said, I am just going to mimic what you said. The loser of this definitely out of the picture. Neither of these teams belong in the playoffs with the way it's gone. I like Cam Newton so much, man. I want to see the league is better when Cam Newton's good at football.
It's over, man.
But it's
done.
And I hesitate to say that because the first couple games for Cam were all right, right? And then the last game was so bad, and now he's had a bye week to get reintegrated. But that team does not have Christian McCaffrey. That's a huge deal. That's going to affect everybody. So even though somehow, some way, Carolina has 70% of the picks on ESPN Pick'em. I don't know how that happened. I guess people expecting Cam to come out of the bye week hot, but again, without CMC over the past 2 years, what have you seen? The fucking Panthers suck without CMC in the lineup. So, and the Falcons with Cordero Patterson, they can put up points. So I'm going to take the Falcons here.
Wow, so 77% of the pigskin pick and people are taking Carolina. Is that what you said?
70%.
70. Yeah, same thing. Regardless, you, Brad, and I are unanimously taking the Falcons to win this football game.
Hey, fade the public. Hashtag fade the public.
That's right. So right behind the Carolina Panthers is the Atlanta Falcons at number 11. They are 5-7 on the year. Last week they lost to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers 30-17. Is there anything you want to talk about with the Falcons?
Not really. Cordell Patterson's a star. Arthur Smith, if he can get some players in there next year, he's going to be a dangerous head coach. I think the Falcons have a chance. AJ Terrell was so bad as a rookie, has turned into one of the best corners in the league. I think it's good to give shout outs to guys that deserve it. AJ Terrell is one of those guys, but that's about it. The Falcons aren't a playoff team, whether they win this week or not. So, not a whole lot to talk about with them.
All right. Right behind them is the New Orleans Saints. It's really weird saying that the Saints are down here at number 12 at 5-7. Last week, they lost to the Dallas Cowboys 27-17. This week, like we said earlier, they're taking on the New York Jets, who are 3-9. The Saints are in big trouble. They're trying to find their identity. They're trying to find a quarterback capable of producing on the field. My question to you real quick is, do you see Sean Payton bailing at the end of this year?
Absolutely not. I just don't see that being the case with him getting Jameis back next year. More than likely, they'd be crazy not to bring him back unless they can. I've heard rumors, maybe Russ wants to go to Seattle. That'd be a good pairing. But I think they're about to be enough veteran quarterbacks available, and the Saints are good enough about kicking money down the road. Like they've owed money every year from the cap, and somehow keep working it out to where they just bounce it down the road. And it affects them later, but it never affects them because they say we'll let it affect us later. So, they've found a way to kind of to get around the system there. So I think next year Sean Payton and the Saints will be much better. They were so good at the beginning of the year, and then Jameis gets hurt, and that affected everything for them ever since Simeon had to play. So, next year will be a better year for the Saints, but right now they're not a very good football team and will probably miss the playoffs.
Absolutely. And just for everybody out there, all three of us are taking the Saints over the Jets this week. Sitting there at number 13 behind the New Orleans Saints is the New York Giants at 4-8. Last week they lost to the Miami Dolphins 20-9. They're taking on the Chargers. They're heading to Los Angeles. The Chargers are 75. All three of us taking the Chargers this week. That is correct, right?
That would be correct. Yep. With Jake Fromm starting for the Giants.
All right. Right behind them is the Chicago Bears. For some reason, Matt Nagy is still the head coach in Chicago. They are 4-8, sitting in the 14th slot. Last week, they lost 33-22 to Arizona. This week, they're heading to Lambeau. Packers are 9-3. All three of us are taking the Green Bay Packers because Aaron Rodgers owns the Chicago Bears, and he is going to prove that yet again. Anything else you want to say about the Chicago Bears?
Not at all. Just at this point, like, why wait to fire Nagy? Like, that team is garbage. He's in charge of the offense. Like, what are we waiting? If you're going to miss the playoffs, just fire him.
I agree. We've been saying that for.
They're gonna let the all the fans of the Bulls that go to the game, or even the Bears fans that go to games, are yelling and doing their chants, fire Nagy, fire. Like, how long does that have to go on before you're like, okay, our fans fucking hate this guy, we're losing with this guy, goodbye.
You would think, man, but it's a very good question.
That's
And
why the Bears are the Bears.
that is why the Bears are the Bears, yeah. So right behind the Bears, sitting at 15, is the Seattle Seahawks at 4-8. Last week surprised everybody, pulled out a win against the 49ers, 30-23. This week they're taking on the Houston Texans. They're heading to Houston. Houston's 2-10. We talked about them earlier. I do believe, oh no, you and I are taking Seattle. Brad was taking the Houston Texans. Is there anything else you want to say about this game or the Seattle Seahawks?
Not much about the game. You know, the Seahawks, very disappointing. I had them having a pretty disappointing year anyways, but mostly because I didn't believe in their defense. But their defense has actually been, you know, pretty average rather than disappointing. They've been pretty average, not terrible. So it's been their offense with Russ in the lineup, Russ out of the lineup, but looked like they could get back to it. But I think at this point, the damage has been done. It's kind of crazy to see a 15th seed out of 16 having 4 wins. Speaks to the kind of power that's there in the NFC and the kind of parity we've seen this year in the NFL. But at this point, there's virtually no chance for them to make it.
Yeah, well, speaking of virtually no chance to make it, and even worse than the 2-10 Jacksonville Jaguars, is the Detroit Lions at 1-10-1. Last week, got their first win of the season, 29-27 against the Minnesota Vikings. That's their first win in 364 days with a walk-off touchdown. However, and I don't know if you heard this, Hefe, there was a referee controversy. Rulebook says, and I'm paraphrasing here, no extra point try if mathematically it doesn't matter. Detroit went up only 2 points with their end of the game touchdown pass. The referees essentially called the game. However, they should have had to line up for that extra point play in case something happened. And Minnesota ran it back for 2 points and tied the game, which, because it's the Lions, is a type of crazy shit that would actually happen. But it didn't, and the Detroit Lions finally won the game. Did you hear that controversy at all?
No, it's interesting that, you know, you feel like that would have been a bigger story with the Lions getting their first win. Somebody would have mentioned that, but no, I hadn't heard that at all.
Yeah, so they should have actually lined up, and whether you kicked the extra point or you lined up to go for 2 and knelt it down or whatever, they should have actually lined up and ran a play, because if they fumbled it and Minnesota picked it up, ran it back, they would have tied the game. So kind of an error on the NFL referees. They seem to be doing that quite often here. That's a whole different topic for another day, but I thought that was interesting. But regardless, hey, Detroit came out with a victory, man. That's the first win in 364 days.
Yeah, well, it sure feels like somebody was juicing the lines there, because the line in that game, by the way, was Vikings getting 2.5 points, or the Lions were getting 2.5 points. So there was a point threshold there. It sounds like one of the refs had a vested interest. For like, no, let's call this off now.
That's big bucks talking right there.
Uh-huh.
All right, so this week they're heading to Denver. All three of us are in agreement. Denver's going to come out with the win. The Lions got their win on the season, probably not going to win another one. So that's that. Anything else you want to say about the Detroit Lions?
Enjoy your win, because that's probably all you're getting.
Yeah, you're probably about right. All right, that's all we have for you guys this week. If you're listening on WUBI Live Radio, do not go anywhere, as Hefe and I will be right back with the final regular season episode of Fantasy Central. Playoffs start next week. We're here to help you get an advantage in your league, so stick around. You can catch the Horsemen Pro Football Talk podcast and Fantasy Central every Thursday at 4 p.m. Eastern Time on WUBI Live Radio. You can find the app available for download for free in your app store, or simply visit WUBI.live, where you can stream directly from your internet browser. For the rest of you, thank you for tuning in, whether you're watching us on YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, or just listening on your favorite podcast platform. We appreciate you. Please hit that like, share, subscribe button. A small gesture like that goes a very long way for all of us here at Horsemen Sports. It's not too late to jump in our Pigskin Pick'em League and compete weekly with Brad, Hefe, and I. Hop on our Facebook page at Horsemen Sports, where you can find a quick link to sign up. If you win this week, or if you win a week, we'll give you a shout out here on our show. Also, check out our Patreon community at horsemansports.com, where you can find exclusive premium content no one else here is able to have. Is there anything else you want to say before we head out of here, Hefe?
No, I think we pretty much covered it all, man.
All right. With that said, it has been a pleasure. For Hefe, I'm Zach, in memory of our good friend of the show, Joey Deuce Agan, who tragically passed away 1 year ago today. As Brad always says while signing off, deuces.